All right, time now for Alan Hahn's Knicks Fix. As always, we say hello to Alan downstairs in our Squarespace studio. Alan, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Mitchell Robinson not playing tonight for the Knicks. He's got a sore hammy. But why should he pay extra attention tonight to Utah's Rudy Gobert?
Well, because that's a player he can model his game after. There's no question about that. It's a player that when you're seeing in today's NBA where the big men go by the way of the dinosaur, Rudy Gobert is showing you that there is still a need for a big who can play defense and score around the basket the way he can. You remember also last season when he was talking to Rebecca Harlow, he said of Robinson that he's got all the tools to be a great player. So Gobert has paid attention to Robinson. You're certainly hoping that Mitch pays attention to Gobert. And how about pay attention to this? So Mitchell's in his second season in the NBA, and Rudy Gobert was a two-time All-Defensive Player and Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. In year two, however, their numbers are very similar. Now, that 73% number is off the charts, and that's something that could break a record. But look at their numbers right there, side by side. Now, as I mentioned, Rudy Gobert is a Defensive Player of the Year, a two-time winner of that award. But it wasn't until his fifth season that he won Defensive Player of the Year. He was all defense in his fourth season. So 2 seasons in, it does take some time for these players. Now, Mitchell Robinson has struggled earlier this season with foul trouble. He has curbed that since the calendar flipped to 2020. But over his last 8 games, Mitchell Robinson is averaging 12 points and 10 rebounds per game, and also 2.6 blocks per game, a huge part of him as well, while shooting, get this, 75.9%, basically 76% from the field. It's absolutely amazing. Now, I mentioned that 73% he's shooting on the season. That field goal percentage, if he can finish the season that way, that's right now on pace to break the NBA record, and it's a very old record. The current NBA record for field goal percentage in a season is 72.7%, and that's held by the great Wilt Chamberlain back in 1972-73. So Mitchell Robinson already putting himself in really good company when it comes to that. But watching Rudy Gobert and the type of player he can become, the Knicks would certainly love to have a player like that.
Alan, talking about Utah, they made the big off-season acquisition of the veteran point guard Mike Conley, but he's only played in 37 games. He's had all kinds of injury trouble, and even when healthy, he's not always starting. What has happened with this?
Well, this was one of an offseason that had a ton of big moves around the NBA. This was one of the moves that everybody paid attention to when the Jazz made a big trade. They gave up 2 first-round picks for Mike Conley from the Memphis Grizzlies. They thought it would be a perfect piece for their team, take some pressure off Donovan Mitchell, add another defensive player there with Rudy Gobert, as we mentioned, as well. And it just hasn't worked out. Mike Conley has struggled this season for the most part. Remember, he had some injury issues as well. He's missed a lot of games. It's actually reached a point in Utah where some fans wanted to see him out of the starting lineup, like you mentioned, Bill, and have his minutes go to former Knick Emmanuel Mudiay. Now, this season, he's averaging about 13 a game, 4.2 assists. He's shooting under 40% overall and 36 from 3. He told The Athletic recently, "Nobody is more frustrated than me." He admitted he's aware of the criticism and everything that's being said about him. Now, this is the key part here. He's in a huge contract. It's nearing the end. This year, he gets $32.5 million. That's a gigantic salary for a player who's not producing. He has a player option for $34.5 million next season that you would have to expect he would pick up. So that's a big contract that you're carrying if you're Utah. The good news, it's been a frustrating season, but Mike Conley is starting to find his game at this point. In fact, he might be breaking out of late. Over the last 3 games, he's averaging 15 points a game, 5 assists per game, but more importantly, shooting 44% from the field, and he's made 9 of 21 from downtown. So watch him tonight because, again, if he's finding his groove, that's a player to keep an eye on tonight because the Jazz certainly need him to find his game.